Why all the fires? The world's on fire. What is happening?
A happy cow tastes better.
Why do other countries have this ability and we don't here in America?
It's time to meet the new pioneers transforming farming and food. These extraordinary women and men are revitalizing the soil, restoring the environment, and protecting wildlife, essential elements of Mother Nature. Prepare to be surprised as we discover one of the most crucial movements dedicated to making our world a better place. It's time to meet our farm heroes.
Well, let's shop.
Let's do it.
Why is organic, small, independent important to you?
It's forward-looking. So we're looking towards the future and the future of the land. And these are the producers that take care of the land and provide a better place to live for the generations to come.
You know, your answer could have been, well, it's close and it's fresh, but you went way beyond that. To the future of the planet, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
And that's what intentional shopping is for you.
It's about changing the mindset of everyone. It's easy just to look at the price tag because things cost a lot. It's also like there's a higher price. It's further down the line and you've got to be able to see that.
No such thing as cheap food.
No.
We were just talking about how your standpoint on flavor changes a little bit as you work with organic ingredients, and the more you do it, you start to notice the difference in flavor. A lot has to do with the nutrients and things like that, where it's grown. Polenta, he doesn't put as much cheese in it as he used to because he wants to be able to taste the grain.
That's such an important point too, because at the end of the day, if it was forward thinking and good for the planet, but it didn't taste great, that's no fun.
Yeah.
So that's a great balance. So we've got,
Got to find that balance.
the nutrient value, the fantastic flavor, it's gorgeous, the colors and the size and just everything about it. And then we're actually making a difference with shopping here today.
We're one of the last stops before somebody consumes it. So as much as chefs can have some responsibility in going to the source and seeing where things are made, it kind of bridges the gap, and we can help speak for farmers and things like that and kind of just have a little more responsibility in the game.
If this had no certifications whatsoever, we would still shop here because of the story and because what we're contributing to. Do you feel that way as chefs?
Absolutely.
Yeah, to be ethical as far as their food practices and things like that, but you got to hit the bottom line. And that's what you're trying to do.
And that's another good point, that there might be a little bit of pain as far as pricing to start.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have pain one way or the other, right? We might as well do it now with fresh, delicious food, get that demand going, demand supply market. This is a business. We want farmers to do well. Let's have farmers rolling in dough. How about that?
Yeah.
Because they deserve it.
I lived on an organic farm for a while, and they asked me to pick berries every once in a while when they were short, and I did it a few times, and I'm like, I will never ask you the price of anything again, because it's a lot of work and it's backbreaking. So.
We've focused on farming and ranching and beef, and as chefs, you play a major role. So what does that mean to you when you get this fresh, organic, regenerative ag produce and how you prepare? Does that change the way that you think about preparing food?
I've stripped down a lot of it, so I'm really focusing on the inherent flavor in the vegetable or the beef.
So not covering it with
Not covering it,
sauces,
yeah, or just
breading it, frying it,
Yeah.
torturing that poor thing to death.
yeah, and really trying to bring out the flavor of the carrot or the eggplant or the strawberry.
You can't beat the diversity in color and flavor in vegetables. Vegetables are just beautiful. And just like the season's changing, the vegetables change. And you kind of, once you start hitting fall, you're like, I'm thinking about mushrooms and squash and things like that. So it's really exciting.
How do you, when you're feeding children, do you do anything differently?
It's a little plainer. It's a little less salty and just very natural flavors. And then you want them to get used to the natural flavors.
Well, and that's part of our purpose, is to make it natural for children to grab a carrot, eat it, and love it and savor it.
Absolutely.
Not open a package to go for a snack. So,
And I think if you talk to anybody, the best fruit they've ever eaten is the one they walked up to the tree, picked it in the sun, and ate it.
Yeah.
all right, let's keep shopping.
Cool.
I'm excited for dinner.
My name is Mark Miyagi. I'm the ranch manager for TomKat.
But you focus on cattle.
Actually, a focus on soil health. The cattle are just one of our tools and how we use them on the land as a practice. So we really focus on soil health there at TomKat.
So let's talk about carbon sequestration, tying it back to organic matter, the soil biology. All those cycles go hand in hand. It's a wonder of nature.
Yeah, and I think the key here is cycling. We've gotten so hung up on sequestration, and a lot of this carbon is not sequestered, it's just cycling.
So the carbon comes in, the plant converts it to carbohydrates, to sugars, sends it out through its roots, gives those microorganisms some payoff, right? The plant needs nutrients. The microorganism gives the plant nutrients because that plant is paying it back with some yummy food that came from carbon into carbohydrates and sugars, etc.
You've got carbon in this plant, right? These dead leaves, if they're not actually consumed by an animal or trampled into the ground where the microbes can consume them, they eventually break down, the carbon's released into the air. So it's lost, it's out of the cycle. It's just released into the air.
Okay, so that cycle happens with everybody working together.
Yes.
So if we take one variable out of that equation, everything's not working properly in balance.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
This where it needs to go. Wow. Thank you.
What do you got over here?
You want a touch food, touch of vanilla paste. Now we're gonna go in with your beautiful rose petals.
These are pecan ducks.
Beautiful. We're gonna cure them overnight, and then tomorrow we're gonna hang them over a pit and give them a nice slow roast.
Cows and goats are crucial to preventing fires, to handling fires.
And look what happened in Los Angeles. Those fires were unimaginably destructive. And even though so many people are waking up to the fact that this is a real problem, I don't think they have all the solutions.
And I think a lot of people across the country are asking, is this climate change? Is this, obviously it's man's impact on the environment. Why all the fires? Because I really want people who are getting this information to thoroughly understand how regenerative agriculture also encompasses prevention of fire, handling fire, and some fires are good, right? It's just how we react to them.
As humans, we haven't understood the cycles and how to manage, and especially here in the United States where we went to don't allow the natural fires to burn along slowly, and so we built fuel. So we've had two things work against us. One, we've built up a lot of fuel. Two, we've gotten a lot drier because of our mismanagement of land and water. So now we have more fuel that is drier.
Okay. And when you say fuel, we're talking about
anywhere from this vine to that tree.
to that tree. Okay.
Right? Now here's where animals can come in. So if cows went through here, they're going to graze out similar to this or maybe even a little lower. And as you reduce the height of the forage, you reduce the height of the flames. It makes it easier for people to either fight it, slow it down, or just not have it get into the trees. Where the goats come along is not only do they prune up the brush, because you can see the goats have actually been in this plot, but they prune up underneath those trees, and that removes what they call ladder fuels. And ladder fuels allows the fire to climb out of the grass into the trees. And that's where you get these devastating fires where it climbs into the top of the trees, and then you get these canopy fires.
That's the worst.
Yes.
When it hits the top of the trees, we're in big trouble. So you said the natural fires. So again, when we talk about fires, it happens in nature. The fires that happen in nature are now butting up against what we humans have done to the environment, and that's when it can be devastating. So we've interrupted that cycle. Now what can we do to have the greatest impact to reverse what we've done?
I think we have to work at it from two directions. So one, we need to work on managing the fuel that's out there, whether it's through livestock, through prescribed burns, through even mechanical mastication.
What does that mean?
Mastication is where you take a machine that will come out and it'll turn this all into chips, right? So it lowers but that is really in my mind, that's like a emergency work, and it just comes back if you don't manage it. It will just regrow. From the other end is we need to manage our water. So if you think about it, before Europeans showed up, we had, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of beavers in this country. All these streams, all these riparian areas were very wet. We have seen in the last decade that there's several studies on where there's been fire through places like Nevada, and when they come to riparian areas with beavers, the fires seem to slow down and go out. Everything in nature evolves into balance, and it had a way for fires to get started lightning, and go out, not burn the country down. And we have broken those, and we have to come back to understanding those cycles and start, at least now it's foundational. You know, it's water, minerals, energy, community dynamics. How do we get those back to healing those cycles? Nature will be back in working. The ecosystems will work.
So regenerative agriculture, obviously, is addressing all of these things, right? They're all part of that system, and nature put them there for a reason, and they play a crucial role. So, Mark, what do you think the solution is to all of this?
I agree with your point on education. I don't know that we need to learn more. We can always learn more, but I mean, as a species, if we actually applied what we knew, right? So it's really about, look, there's only 2 to 3% of the population works in agriculture. The buying power is in the other 97, 98%. And if they understood what happens out on the land that actually impacts them, right? If we mismanage these lands and they burn, the person who lives in San Francisco has to breathe that smoke, right? If we mismanage these lands and the water leaving this land is not clean and clear, the person downstream has to drink polluted water. So it's really in the public's best interest to want us to manage these lands for everybody's benefit. And I am all for science and engineering, but it needs to take a back seat to the ecosystem processes. And it starts with the fundamentals. If people could understand those and then ask themselves, how can I use technology, science and engineering better to manage as humans so we can make better decisions and heal the process?
But as a consumer, the buying power.
Right.
And now we're making that connection. You go into the store or you go to the farmer's market, what you're buying, not even indirectly, directly, when you buy regenerative agriculture, produce, proteins, support a farmer who's practicing in that way or transitioning, right? You're playing a direct role in fire management, in carbon cycle, in nutrient cycle. So that's a new look at it.
And in healthy food.
Yes.
So, you know, some of the recent studies have come out that show that they can link the healthier the soil, the more biodense the food, the plant food is. And then with the animals, it's the more biodiversity of the pasture, the more nutrient dense the meat is. CAFOs, confined animal feedlot operation.
Right. So if we take these CAFOs and converted them to grasslands, grow cattle, keep them well fed. So they're trying to achieve the same purpose and goal in completely different ways.
Yes.
So the grasslands are regenerative. The soil is being revitalized. CAFOs, it doesn't sound like there's much revitalization happening of anything.
No, they have gotten better about managing their manure waste, their retention ponds and all this, but as a consumer, if I know nothing about livestock or CAFOs, but I'm sitting there going, meat out of a CAFO, what is the nutrient density? What are they actually having to feed these animals? Because corn is not a balanced diet for a cow. They want to eat roughage, they want to eat grass. Yes, will they eat corn? They will, but it's actually too much sugar for their digestion. And it actually makes them sick. And so they have to treat them with a lot of things, sometimes drugs, sometimes not. But just the fact that you can't have that animal just eating plant material tells you something's not quite right. If it's not good for the animal, is it good for the person that's eating the meat? And that's the question we need to ask.
Let's ask ourselves, what I just purchased, is my money going to knowingly making an animal sick by the choices the system has made, or making an animal healthy and part of nature and revitalizing the soil with my choice? I think really we just have to put that out there so that people, when they're using their purchasing power, I've been there. I've done mindless shopping. No more. No, you can't. Once you know, it's impossible to mindlessly shop for food. It's impossible to mindlessly eat food.
So I think your point is really good about not mindlessly doing it, because the first reaction is then let's not eat meat. Not eat cows, right?
Right.
Okay.
Good,
So
I'm glad you brought this up.
But so why doesn't that solve the problem? Because the same type of farming that produces the corn is the same type of farming that may produce the vegetarian diet. I'm making bare soil. Oh, that means I'm scraping the skin off the earth and I'm exposing it, right? So if you're just going to convert the corn ground or a soy ground, whatever ground that you're feeding a CAFO into a vegetarian diet, and you're not going to change your practices, you still have the same ills. You took the cow out, now you can't blame the cow. Well, who's to blame? Us humans. We have not made a paradigm shift to understand the fundamentals of how the natural cycles work.
Right.
We can make excuses and not actually address the root cause. You have to drill down to the root cause. And some of the simplest ways to do that is, I like to steal from Toyota's 5 Whys. You ask yourself why, and then why again, drill down at least 5 layers deep. Sometimes it takes, but generally 5 whys will get you to the root cause. So why, if the consumer starts, the product I'm buying, why isn't either healthy or why is it doing the earth well? Start drilling down till you figure out what's going on. And it's not just information, it's how that information interacts with the world we live in.
We want to empower people. So we want to educate them. We want to entertain them. It's been highly entertaining being on TomKat Ranch. And then empower with actions, what they can do now that they know.
I liked your term, intentional shopping, intentional purchasing of your food, understanding where that food comes from, and that your dollar spent on food actually impacts your environment and your children and all your descendants.
Okay, we're about to go to the meal, to dinner here at TomKat Ranch, and I stopped by the kitchen to talk to Tim and Austin. So what are we having to eat tonight?
The lettuce is just from the garden right here. The beets and tomatoes are from Blue House. The potatoes are from Blue House Farm, and then we cooked it in duck fat.
Duck, here's the duck from Root Down, lots of fresh herbs.
And then we lacquered it with rhubarb.
And everybody knows how much I like rhubarb. Now I really do love it. And then what's this dish?
Those were cranberry beans.
And then polenta from Pie Ranch, which they grind on site.
Has the local goat cheese in it as well.
From Harley Farms, yeah.
And what do we have here?
Blackberry profluti.
It looks
And we're gonna serve it with a rose milk ice cream.
rose milk ice.
Roses from the garden over here.
I love that. Okay, and these are both gluten-free, right?
Yes.
Thank you, chefs. What is this beauty?
That is pork chops from Root Down. And then we glazed it with a pickled chili and honey glaze. And we have some pickled peppers and grilled fennel.
And the honey's from TomKat.
Okay, and the hogs in particular from this farm, are they raised in regenerative agriculture?
They're out on pasture a lot. They just run around if we went by there.
We talk a lot about terroir in wine, right? When we sip and we taste it. But what we're noticing with regenerative agriculture protein is the terroir comes out in the flavor. So what they ate, we can taste. And come join us to eat, okay? Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let's dig in. We've gone over the food, a few more shout outs though before we start. Root Down is in the house. So Wendy, thank you so much.
It's been a delight to have you all here.
A happy cow tastes better. Or we need to know what it tastes like, I guess.
Okay, so let me give you a quick measurement. So I grew up on a dairy, grass-based dairy. If you stress that cow, she won't let her milk down. So that is an instantaneous reaction. Now the beef takes longer, but it's still the same thing. If you stress those animals and you don't feed them right, you will get these negative impacts.
What is the takeaway, what we've learned across the season, and how do we summarize that so people can do something about it? And it's intentional shopping. Go in, you look, you asked. Where did this meat come from? Who's the farmer? You know, that's intentional, not just grabbing things mindlessly, but knowing the story of the farmer.
It starts at all of the levels though, right? If you're a farm producer, to have that same level of awareness and attention. We use the word attunement a lot in our work. Are we really paying attention to how your animals are raised, how your forage and your soil is? And then for Kathy, what is the consumer tuned into? And so we all need to tune in more, just to our connection with the planet, from where it grows to where the food comes into our plates, right?
This meal, this is a representation of our whole season. I don't think there's one ingredient that didn't come from a few miles away, right?
Why do other countries have this ability and we don't here in America?
It's a good question. Everything we've learned and everything we've been inspired to do this season, let's take a global look and let's not shy away from the fact that Americans had specific challenges when it relates to food. Some of them are worldwide, some of them are very common. But why, when somebody travels to another country, I can eat bread, in America I cannot? Thank you, interns, for helping. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Bella. The table is gorgeous. And then, Mark, what do you think of your beef tenderloin?
It's excellent. I'm biased.
Farm Hero came to TomKat Ranch, and we knew the most about Tom and Kat and what they're doing, and of course, they're farm heroes, right? But from everything I've seen and I've learned and I've experienced from all of you, you're all farm heroes. And when I look at the experience of the whole season and tonight and the past few days, I have hope. Beyond hope is solutions, that we're gonna solve this. We have people who care, people who are doing it. So we have the hope, we have the science, we have the learning environment. So thank you for inspiring people to get off their butts, join the team that's doing something about it, regenerative agriculture as the solution to salvage our food system, quite frankly. So to all of you, TomKat Ranch, you're our farm heroes. Cheers.
Yeah.